This is the Norris Group's Real Estate Investor Radio Show, the award-winning show dedicated to thought leaders shaping the real estate industry and local experts revealing their insider tips to succeed in an ever-changing real estate market. Hosted by author, investor, and hard money lender, Bruce Norris.
That's why you were that unique person in that group of speakers, is because you did it differently. You connected with the human being who actually kind of fell in love with you.
Well,
how could a group of real estate investors want to line up and hug you with tears in their eyes unless that had to be true? I knew that was going to happen. That was so cool, but it was cool for you to experience and see that.
Yeah, I had no clue that any of that would happen. As a matter of fact, had we had that, let's say you had that conversation with me about, this is what's going to happen to me. I would laugh. Honest to God, I would laugh in your face and say, "You're out of your mind. I don't know what you've been drinking, but you need to get off of those pills." But it was a shock to me. And I have to say one thing here, because as you're speaking, I've often asked myself those questions, and it was you really, because you've always done this for me as well. It was you who made me become introspective. I'm out there making money. I got to make some money. I want to, I was doing my pizza job, but I don't want to be at Shakey's Pizza for the rest of my life. And I certainly had no high school diploma. I had nothing. What am I going to do? Janitorial services for the rest of my existence? I had to find a way to free myself and be independent and not be under the thumb of somebody else. I had this weird combination of, I don't want to work for anybody. I don't like to work for anybody. I really never got fired. I heard you say that and I thought, oh my God, my dad would have killed me if I got fired. So, but what is it? What is it that helped me to create whatever it is that in my character helps me to reach out to people? Because Tony can sometimes be a royal pain in the butt, So when I looked over my history, the only thing I have in my character is I will work myself to the bone to accomplish what I want to accomplish. Once I decide I want to do this, and my determination locks and loads, and I don't compare myself to anybody else and stuff like that. My brother's the same way. My younger brother, he's got a company. He's got 3 companies now that he's about to sell. Got into it, from nowhere, and it's over $150 million or something they're offering. It's just unbelievable stuff. And but the other part was from my dad. My dad would tell us, and in the smallest of ways, we sit down and eat. It's all boys, all of us in this big, table, and my mom she was cook at home. She'd put the food down. And my brother would dig in, I'm looking at his plate. What? Might be my dad. Keep your eyes on your own plate. What do you look at your brothers? What do you care what he got? Okay, so now, years later, how does that translate into something Tony as an adult uses? I never learned to pay attention to competition. Who cares? Oh, because the minute I start thinking about anybody else, I feel psychologically, I feel that smack. It's like, okay, Dad, I get it. Focus your attention. And over the years, he got me my first job at a factory and stuff like that. It was like, focus your attention on what you do. Don't worry about what anybody else does. You're not going to improve yourself by that. You just focus on what you're doing. Do as best a job, and tomorrow do it better. Try to get faster, better, or whatever. Okay, my mom, you got to understand, we came here as immigrants, right? So she's got to get us into Catholic school and all that. She's got to go talk to the priest and this and that and all these people. She would take us all with her. And before we went, we had no money. We had nothing to bring, right? My mother would tell us, you always have to never visit anyone without bringing something. And it sounds like, we got nothing, Mom. And she says, yes, you do. And she'd go like this. She'd say, you bring a smile. Don't come in there complaining about, oh, we're broke. We need your help. Can you help us, please? We need a place to stay. No, don't do that. Go in asking, what can we do to earn our way? What can we do? What can we do here? Because we'll do whatever it takes. And so early on in life, that was our situation. And so so everyone we met, I watched my mother, interact with people. She barely spoke English. She found a way to communicate with people. She would find a way to get her point across. And she got us into Catholic school, into the best school, in our city. She got a story written up about her in the local paper, believe it or not, that said, a woman of indomitable spirit, And it was about her story about coming from Cuba. It was the first time they ever used color, full color in the paper. And her story was highlighted in the human, whatever the heck it was section, So I got those two things. My dad taught me to stay focused, stay determined, just improve on your own best, keep improving on that. And my mother was all about the resounding statement from her is, you can make friends with anyone. You can meet and make friends with anyone in this life. Doesn't matter how rich or how famous or how important they are, as long as you learn to love other people first. Now, I've mentioned before several times, we never understood that as kids. And she told us that a billion times. We never understood that as kids. As we grew up, as we started growing up, we knew what that meant. It meant to care about the success of other people as much as your own. To realize that, everyone that you're going to meet in your life has the same desires as to one extent or another. They have the same concerns. They have the same desires. They have the same dreams as you do. They may be a little bit different here and there, but we all want to live a fruitful life, one that we're not worrying about that wolf coming to the door. We all worry about the same things. We're not all that different. So, and that's what happened that day when you invited me to speak. I realized, and the one thing that really cemented me when I was on that stage, I remember finally losing my nervousness. And it was when I realized I get it, because of the reaction of the audience. You could see all their faces, and I could see that what they were really hearing from me was the truth of what I had experienced in my life, which is, that's what really success is, what's bestowed on us as we live our lives correctly. That's it. In every decision that you make, it doesn't matter if it's a business decision about money or whether it's you're having a conversation with somebody who's in distress, don't look to yourself for some way of manipulating that situation. You're in the wrong place. Look to listen to that person and then respond in that moment with the best of yourself that you possibly can. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, it was something I learned from my parents. It wasn't something I got out of a real estate book. I learned strategy from other investors and from real estate education. But my conduct was 100% what I learned from my parents. And that's how I got to recognize it in you, Bruce, and in other investors as I met, and in people, when you would meet people like that guy at his house on Ford Street. He was no different than I was. And you know what? I had already felt failure in my life. There, by the grace of God, is Tony. The only difference between him and I was a very thin line.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've that day speaking for you on that stage was a great experience for me, because it introduced me to the things that had actually helped to make me financially secure, for the rest of my life and for my families. I mean, that I had never asked myself those questions. I never asked, what is it that you brought to what is it that Tony brought to the table? Because we bring something. All of us bring something to the table. Whether it's worthwhile or not, that's another question. But we're all going to deliver something,
Bruce, I'll have a comment for you. The last time we had Tony on, I get a text from Tony, and he's like, "I hope that was okay." He's so worried about delivering content that people want to hear. And Tony, I'm here to tell you on air and live in front of everybody that we're the lucky ones. I feel like I'm listening to a couple Hall of Famers, and that's what the real estate investment world hears right now when they hear our radio show. They're listening to a couple Hall of Famers, talk about their story, and believe me, it's beyond valuable.
Yeah, and I do worry about that stuff. I mean, I always worry about that because I'm with myself, all these years. I'm 67 years old, right? I've been with Tony, and I know Tony's a boob, I mean, honest to God, I don't think of myself as a genius or anything like that. Those thoughts can't stand, they have no room in my mind. So I'm basically an idiot who figured a way to work hard and to do the right thing, And as often as possible, and we're all human beings, you know, I'm not, you think I haven't had, a greedy thoughts or this or that, or, here come tax season. I'm thinking, what else can I write off? But, over the years, you repeat certain behaviors and they lead you to someplace else. Here in Oregon right now, and in the last times that we've spoken, the people that I've met, the friends I've made, in the same manner, as a result, it's like an extension. My life has just become an extension of those same behaviors that brought me a success in one way or another. I have breakfast, which is my favorite thing to do. Get up really early, the restaurant opens at 8:00. I'm the first guy walking in the door, and everybody knows Uncle Tony wherever I go. I introduce myself as such. And you guys, I don't want to come in here one more time and not hear you say good morning, Uncle Tony. I've been here 17 million times already. And so I'm going to my dentist. I'm having my teeth worked. The guy says, what do you do? A young guy. I said, I'm a real estate guy. Oh, really? What do you do? I'm building some duplexes in town. And, well, who do you rent to? I'm doing some stuff for traveling nurses. And stuff. Oh my God, you need to meet my dad. Who's his dad? His dad turns out who I said, why? He says, my dad's got a house. He wants to build a triplex behind an old rental house. And he wants to rent to nurses and stuff. And he owns, by the way, he owns this center that we're in and stuff like that. He says, you should talk to him because that bank building is coming vacant. And they were right across from the hospital. And he wants to figure out how to do something with that. I said, tell your dad anytime he wants to get together with me, here's where I go for breakfast. If he wants, tell him to show up. Here's my number. Tell him to text me. He can show up. Most of the time I'm sitting there. I'm either with Sabrina or somebody else, but that's where I do my business meetings. Okay. You got to be consuming something at the same time. And he said, no problem. I get a call from him. We meet. One of the best friends I have up here now. And this guy he owns vacant commercial land. He's asking me, Tony, he says, why don't we partner up? I said, I don't want to do partnership. God, I love you. God forbid we get into a disagreement. I don't want to get into that. I said, but I will help you in any way I can. We'll go see the property. I give you, I hooked him up with the contractor guys. And he's lived in this town way longer than me. He knows everybody in town. But oddly enough, since he hasn't really been active in doing anything with that real estate, so I led him to the bank also that I bank, People's Bank, which is one of my favorite banks in town, and in Evergreen Bank he already had a relationship, which was the first bank that I started here with, and I'm still with them as well. And so there's people I knew that he didn't know, and there's a ton of folks that he knows that I get to leverage in a different way, those relationships. So we spent a lovely time together. And now I suppose, the dentist guy could say, hey, what do you do? Well, I just do whatever. I'm in the real estate. Oh, really? Yeah, well, I don't, are we here to work on my teeth or are we here to do an interview? You can bring your attitude in the morning or whatever to somebody else, or you can pay attention. Because life, and some of these things border on my, religious or spiritual beliefs or whatever you want to call it. Although, I don't. Life is constantly asking you to come forward, to expand, to do something more than what you are right now. Whether we accept that invitation or not is 100% in our control. 100%. Whether you recognize that or not, regardless of what takes place in your life, things are happening all the time. But life is always saying, are you willing to come another step? Are you willing to grow a little bit better? Are you willing to impact other people's lives because you have this certain amount of knowledge or you experience? And regardless of everything else, we want the best of what you can do because other people need to hear it or other people need to see it or something. I learned that lesson on your stage that day. That's one of the things I got. The things that I thought were only important to Tony were I hate this. I hate when you do this to me.
And I love it when you're being real. Then it's so cool.
It was an awakening, it was an awakening because you realize, wow, this 300, whatever the hell it was in that room, and all of these people, all of them needed to hear something in that whole conversation. There was some words. So what do you realize? that life works in certain ways where it's working through us all the time, if we're willing to accept that. I mean, you do the same thing, Brucey. The life, I mean, myself, my own life, you know, what your words have done for me. You know, so Bruce could have just stayed home. He could have just made his money quietly by himself. He could have just, you know, could have just been a lone guy.
Well, you know what? Jack Fullerton did that for me.
Right.
That's how he put me in front of an audience, kind of with the same attitude. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And then it turned out to be my biggest passion. I get to do that tonight, by the way, in Cape Coral. Well,
that's wonderful. You know, after I went through, you know, 2020, I had that issue, that medical issue and stuff like that. It's been, you know, I met a guy who had almost not exactly the surgery I had, but similar. And he actually had it up here. He used a doctor up here that I didn't go to and stuff like that. I chose to go back to LA. 6 months. This guy's a cabinet maker, and he does the cabinets for our duplexes. This guy's carrying cabinet. I mean, do you know what cabinets are like? He's carrying cabinets back and forth. 6 months after his surgery. Wow. I saw him. I'm like, a year later, I'm still not back. You know, I'm still trying to get back. You know, I'm like, what are you on? He goes, Tony, I just had to get back to work. I couldn't take it anymore. That staying at home thing and that go, I couldn't do it. I just had to get back to work. If I'm not going to be able to do that, I'd rather die. He says to me. I'm like, okay, you know, but I thought, you know what? Yeah, maybe I need to switch it up here a little bit because, yeah, I'm not paying attention. If he could do that, he's carrying cabinets. I mean, I can certainly get myself back to doing something that's meaningful to me. So that's when I started thinking, okay, you know what? I've been hiding out long enough. I need to really kind of embrace things a little bit. And I've been doing well up here financially with the things we're building and stuff. I'm looking at I just had lunch with one of the Karcher folks, you know, Carl's Jr.
Right.
Guy, the one family member up here, Joe Karcher, that owns all the Carl's Jr.'s. He owns Jersey Mike's and the Human Bean and you know, franchise, all that stuff. I drove up to Eugene because he owns some lots across from some stuff I sold. And they've been sitting there for a while. So a friend of mine in town knows who he's the engineer guy. I called him. I said, Justin, do you know who the owner is? He knows everything. You know, he's like one of these guys that's connected to everybody. Oh yeah, I know who that is. That's a Karcher guy. I did some designs for him. He's planning to do 32 units on there, but the numbers don't work out and blah, blah, blah. And I said, can you get me in touch with him? He said, yeah, I got his number. I said, we'll call him up, tell him I want to meet with him. I don't care if I have to drive up to Eugene. I've never been. It'll be a wonderful ride for me and Dana to go do with my wife. And sure enough, the guy responds. He says, yeah, tell him to come up. 33 minutes. I timed it. The shortest meeting Tony Alvarez has ever been involved in, the least amount of words that have ever come out of my mouth, okay? But the most profitable meeting I have ever had, okay? He said to me in that conversation, I said, listen, I did, and I brought two, because I had Gerlitz, the engineer, do two designs. One was for 16 units, and the other one is for 28 units if I buy another lot that he's got next to it, which I could really care about. So as I'm walking into this Carl's Jr. to meet him there, I'm thinking, should I show him this and that? I mean, my mind, I tell you, I'm human like everybody else. Don't show him that, because if he sees how he can do it profitably, he's going to steal the idea. He's got plenty of money. He doesn't need you. Blah, 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 blah. And I got these plans under my arm, you know, and I go in there and go to the bathroom, come out. There he is. And I can tell it's him. He looks just like the original Karcher, you know, the father. And he said, Tony, I said, yeah. I said, oh, let's sit down right here. We sit down. He said, what do you want to talk about? He said, you know, I got an agent. I'm listening. I said, yeah, but I want to speak with you. I said, because, you know, I got an issue here. I said, you got these properties listed twice as high as what they're really worth, to be honest. I'm going to speak to you honestly. I'm not up here to do anything else but tell you exactly what I'm thinking. I don't want you to think that I'm some guy. If I make an offer through your agent at what I think it's worth, you're going to think I'm some low baller guy or whatever. I want you to know the type of person you're dealing with. I'm going to tell you the truth about what I see, but I don't want you to get upset with me. You know, if we have different ideas, we shake hands, we're okay. And it's enough. It's important enough. He says, you drove all the way up here to have this kind of a conversation? I said, yes, I did. Because that's, you know, it's a small area. I don't want to get a reputation of being somebody who doesn't care about what he does. And I want you to understand, here's what I've been doing. I did this. Here's what I've been paying for lots. And I want you to understand that I love your property. I'm not going to pretend I don't love it. I love it. And it's right where I want. I got another vacant lot across the street I'm trying to buy from Paul True, another guy in town that he knows. I said, but I want to control that little area. And I want to build something that's decent that complements what you've done. By the way, this is some lots on the back portion of a whole commercial development that he's got there that he did a beautiful job on. I said, and look, I want you to know the kind of person I am and what my ideas are. And the minute I said that, I said, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't going to show you this because, I was, afraid you're going to steal it from my idea, whatever. But here it is. And I put down the thing. I said, here's one layout I got. If I only buy these 3 lots, which, by the way, this lot here, you can split up into 2 lots. I don't know if you know that. You can get 4 duplexes on that. Okay. So, and here, if I buy this piece of commercial thing in the back, which is basically worthless, even though you have it listed for like 500 grand, I said, it's only going to be parking for me. And that's all it is, in case you don't know, unless you can get somebody to build this little tiny commercial building that, you haven't been able to do it. So obviously nobody wants it. I said, so he stops me and he goes, the little corner, you can actually keep that as commercial. You might be able to put like a human being. He said, I don't control the franchise down there, but I can introduce you to the guy who does. And I said, wow, I hadn't thought of that. He goes, yeah. So he looks at my plans. He goes, I really like this. He goes, okay, so here's the bottom line. I don't build apartments. I don't do any of this stuff. I don't do residential income stuff. He said, you obviously know what you're doing. As a matter of fact, girl has explained to me what you've done. I've checked you out a little bit. He says, I don't want to. He says, here's the deal. You tell me what you think it's worth. You make me the offer. I don't care about that property as much as you do. He said, we'll cut a deal. You just go figure out what you want to pay for it. Send the offer in. I'm not going to think any ill of you or anything like that. He says, I already know who you are by you making the time to come up here, reaching out to me. And the question came up right away. He said, why don't you go through my agent? I said, your agent's not going to convey who I am to you. Okay. As a matter of fact, he's concerned about his commission. If he thinks that I meet you and I'm not looking to do that. I like your agent. I actually like the guy. He really defends. He protects this guy, Karcher. I said, I think we're done. I looked at him. He says, yeah. He looked at me. He goes, man, that was short. I said, yeah, it was 33 minutes. That's the shortest meeting I've ever had. We actually, he went to shake my hand. I gave him a hug. I said, dude, we're family already. Okay. Let me go. Let's figure this out. Okay. So that's now I know somebody who's, talk about somebody in this town that rocks and rolls. And my whole existence has been like that. Now, did I know this guy was going to give me this reception? No, I'm telling you, I'm walking in and doubting that I should show him the plan. And somewhere in my mind, I have some idea, some negativity in my mind about this guy's going to take advantage of me or something, right?
What's interesting about that is I wonder in his life how many meetings with the first time person ended in a hug ever.
I would tell you from his response, no, that's never happened.
Well, that's why Tony Alvarez is one special young. Well, you're young. I'm 70, so yeah, you're still a young man. Tony, we gotta put a wrap on this. Thank you so much for joining us. We got to figure out how to speak together sometime later this year.
I would love it. I'm trying to do some of it and juggle the thing with my mom because we're taking her now on a more full-time basis, but I'm getting staffing and stuff to help. But yeah, I'm up for it, and that's where I've landed is that if I have anything that I feel that I really owe it to whatever success I've been able to accomplish, is to share with other people what I think is important. Like I did that first day with you. And if I have any regrets at all, is the fact that I didn't immediately stick with doing more of that and having more of an impact in other people's lives, because without thinking about it too much, I think any of us who shares genuinely what they've experienced in their life that's been beneficial to them can't be anything else but beneficial to other people who hear it. So you know, and everyone else has always the right, like I said, you know, you can reject it. You can say, no, thanks. It's not for me. I'm going this way. But our obligation to continue to do that is still there. You know, it's still relevant. So yeah,
I like that that obligation feels like so much fun when you do it.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. It's not like, you know, it's not like a burden, you know.
Not like a job.
Yeah, no,
that's
not at all.
that's a fun choice.
Thanks
All
a
right.
lot.
I enjoyed it very much. Okay, well, let's get in touch soon, okay?
Take care, Joey. Thank you very much for your questions as well.
Thanks, Tony.
Big hug
Okay.
to you guys.
Later.
See you later, bud.
That's his favorite emoji, the hug emoji.
The hug emoji.
For more information on hard money loans and upcoming events with the Norris Group, check out thenorrisgroup.com. For information on passive investing with trust deeds, visit tngtrustdeeds.com.
The Norris Group originates and services loans in California and Florida under California DRE License 012-19911, Florida Mortgage Lender License 1577, and NMLS License 1623669. For more information on hard money lending, go to thenorrisgroup.com and click the Hard Money tab.